Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining. We'll give maybe 30 seconds or so for the rest of the attendees to join, and then we'll get things kicked off. But today we're talking about the expanding role of IT and how do we handle that demand, sleep well, and do it leveraging platforms like ServiceNow.
And make our customers happy.
Exactly. Yep. So just give it a couple seconds, then we'll get things rolling. All right. So we'll get things going today. Everybody, thanks for joining. If you missed my quick little intro, today's webinar is on the expanding role of IT, how to meet that demand and sleep well, because in today's day and age, we're seeing such a huge expansion of the roles, responsibilities, and just in general, what's expected of our IT and technology leaders. And so for today's session, we'll dig in a little bit on Synoptek, and then we'll really look at how leveraging platforms like ServiceNow can help organizations address this, the expanding role and all of the demands. And so a quick bit about Synoptek. My name is Mike Venezia. I'll be the moderator for today's conversation. Synoptek is a global systems integrator, but we have a really deep specialty in delivering ServiceNow, and in particular ServiceNow as a managed service and at our professional services. But what makes us so special is we've been in this space for over 20 years, and we've seen every different flavor and version of ServiceNow and service management that's kind of come along. And so we like to take that business expertise along with the technology expertise and help organizations like yours drive towards the results that you really want to see. And so for today, our two main presenters are David Simpson and Lori Edelman. David is the technology offerings leader for partner acceleration at ServiceNow, and a close partner and somebody we work with every day. And Lori Edelman is a ServiceNow principal consultant with me at Synoptek. So we've got the perspective of technology leaders, implementers, and somebody who's just along for the ride. So hopefully you guys will get a lot of value from today's conversation. But David and Lori, if you want to quickly introduce yourselves, then we'll kind of get things started.
Go ahead, Lori.
Sure. I'm Lori Edelman. As Mike said, I'm a principal consultant on the ServiceNow team. I have been working in the service management space, both on IT as well as in the business for over 20 years. So I'm looking forward to your questions, and we'll see what we can do to help you expand your platform out to other areas of the business.
Thank you. David Simpson, and I'm a 5-time customer of ServiceNow, actually. So I've been 5 times there in your shoes where you're at. And now I've got the pleasure of working with partners all around the globe and helping them work with us to deliver the best value we can for you all and focus on business outcomes. And we're really serious, and we're focused on co-creating value together.
Absolutely. Thanks for that, David. And for everybody listening, as David mentioned, we're so focused on driving business outcomes, but we also want to know what are the business drivers that you're facing. So we've got a little poll. Our team will launch that now for you, and it should pop up here in just a couple seconds. But essentially, the goal of the poll is to help us as we navigate the conversation today, figure out what you're dealing with, whether it be budget constraints or labor shortages. Is it, expanding demands of the business or changing demands, and just really get a good understanding of what it is that you're dealing with. And then based off of that, we'll start digging into those drivers. So take a look, vote in the sidebar, and once we get sort of critical mass, we'll start seeing what everybody's working with.
Yeah, what's good about today's agenda is that we can kind of tailor this to kind of what's the top of mind goals in your organization, and make sure that we're giving you some good examples and sharing information that will be helpful. So I'm
Awesome.
looking forward to seeing what is top of mind for folks.
Cool. All
Because
right.
there's a lot out there, we know.
Yeah, so we're starting to get some traction here. The two big ones that we're seeing are economic uncertainty and the expanding demands of the business, which is perfect. That's exactly what we're seeing as well, and it's what a lot of our customers are kind of coming to us and saying, "Hey, how do we use technology and platforms to help support it?" And it looks like a little bit on business resiliency as well. So. Lori and David, let's dig into what we're seeing here. And my first question, kind of for both of you, and we'll start with you, Lori, and then we'll dig into David, is the business drivers that you're seeing. Lori, you work with customers every day, whether they be implementing the technology or supporting platforms like ServiceNow. What business drivers are you kind of seeing from the organization or from those organizations? And does it align with what our audience is seeing, or is it different?
I think it's aligning really well with what the audience is seeing. I'll kind of phrase this in the sense of engagement management, both for internal fulfillers as well as for those other external users. One of the things that we are seeing over and over again is how can we do more to automate, lessen the number of clicks. Folks are saying, you should kind of know more about what it is that I'm asking for. And one of the areas, I'll give you an example that we saw, is a chain of convenience stores. Outside of IT, they were looking for better engagement for the technicians who go out and manage the refrigeration system. So, you go to the convenience store, you've got your sandwiches and all your cold drinks and things. They were doing that by email. So we were able to extend using the ITSM, platform and application to bring that into ServiceNow, give them full visibility. Now they started to have metrics on it. They could communicate with the stores themselves to understand, okay, you've got a ticket, somebody is going to come out. They're able to communicate with the store manager. So that level of engagement and something that the IT team could bring to the business was one of those somewhat unique types of use cases, but really extending engagement management into other areas of the business.
Yeah, and Lori, that's a great comment, and a theme that I've heard from a lot of other customers is that when you implement platforms like ServiceNow to help support enterprise service management, you really take work that used to be invisible, stuff that we had no data on, no metrics on,
Right.
and you make it visible to the business. You make it something that organizations can start tracking and they can prove business value out. And so, David, as you're working with customers and they're trying to head towards those business outcomes, if they're looking at economic uncertainty or the business looking for IT to be a leader and drive more, support more of the demand that's coming from them or be more resilient, what are you kind of seeing? Is that a similar theme that you're recognizing with your customers and the people that you consult with every day?
Yeah, this is definitely what we're seeing. When you talk about the economic uncertainty, there's a lot going on out there. We know that. And what's it going to look like tomorrow? But you still need to prepare and plan for how do you emerge out of, how do you have the opportunity to transform now and really execute on a good digital strategy and a data strategy. And then demands from the business, it's not changing, it's getting harder. There's even more. There's the user experiences, your employee experiences. There's a lot of expectations set. And in the days of point solutions, I've been there. How do you optimize a portfolio, huge portfolio? It's very challenging, and you have different data structures and data models everywhere. Uh, you've still got to satisfy the needs of the business. And this is where our platform is uniquely positioned to help address that. It is a platform and it is a common data model. And resiliency speaks for itself. We need to be up, we need to be running. We're IT, and we've got to have the right SLAs in place and agreements. And again, world-class platform that helps us establish that.
And David, that's a great comment on the business resiliency front. I had an organization reach out to me just this morning and say, how do I guarantee 100% uptime for non-business user or non-technical users? And that's a tough thing to be able to show expertise or build the confidence that you're able to deliver on that expectation to the business. So let's start talking a little bit about establishing thought leadership and letting IT leaders or digital leaders act as thought leaders for the business. Lori, in what you've done, and I know you have personal experience with this, in roles prior to being a consultant as well, how does an IT leader establish and prove that they have the thought leadership to deliver on the strategy and the roadmap that David was referencing earlier?
Mike, it wasn't that many years ago that IT was not always invited to the table. And I think more and more we're seeing IT leaders that we work with being invited to the table, and the business looking to IT leadership for assistance. I'm going to use another story and another way that we were able to implement and help a large technology firm be able to work with both the sales team and one of the other engineering teams that lacked visibility to help scale the business. And then also the leader of that business unit in engineering was not able to work with their, in this case, it was telco partners around the globe to be able to escalate and say, we're not getting the type of service we're expecting. And so we were able to leverage the framework that already exists, modify it slightly to support this unique business case, and give visibility to both the sales team, to this engineering team. Now we had metrics for that leader to be able to take back to their partners and improve the business, improve overall delivery, improve SLAs to the customer, OLAs internally to the sales team. And I think we continue to see that type of engagement. And that's really having the confidence to know that the platform can do this. Being able to just take one use case, build it out. We didn't go far out of the box. We don't have to. There's so much flexibility. One of the things that I like about the platform is that it's more configurable, right? Years and years ago, we used to have to talk about, actually doing coding. So we just don't have to do that as much anymore. And we have agility that we just didn't even have 5-10 years ago. So I think those conversations are happening more frequently, and we're able to deliver with confidence now.
Yeah. And Lori, to summarize, it sounds like establish a process so that way how you do work and the organization knows what to expect. Collect data and track that data, and then innovate on top of that. Once you get the first two in place, then you have a good picture of your organization, and then you can go from there. And David, you and I have spoken extensively about how platforms help organizations do this. And I know you had shared a slide with me that I think really helps align to that strategy that Lori had laid out. But can you dig into more of that platform component? How do these thought leaders, if they can establish the foundation, improve on the experience, and then drive automation, how does that help them expand across the business?
Yeah, and nice way to also look about how do you expand across the business. What does the journey look like? What does that roadmap look like, getting that established? And this is where, there's decades of experience here, right? And, it is a journey. This isn't going to happen overnight. And, there's a core foundational component. How do you take all these different systems out there? How do you consolidate and build a good, solid foundation? Because you're only as resilient as your weakest points. And you can only demonstrate and share so much with limited data, right? You've got to have good data. You've got to have quality data. You've got to have processes being enabled. and you've got to be able to deliver those outcomes. So from a foundational perspective, connect, see it. There are processes, automated in our systems, and beyond. It's not just IT. It's going larger. It's employee experiences. It's HR. It's finance. It's legal. Build that foundation, and then look at the possibilities. So again, you can look at workflow, you have data, you have a common platform. You're not out there trying to dig around and data mine and process mine of what's going on. It's a mess. I've been there, done that, multiple spreadsheets, right? Where do we have variability? Okay, incidents are here, incidents are taking too long here, changes are here, changes are found. Why? What is going on? We're having outages. Again, where's that visibility? So look for the possibilities, because again, you'll have visibility into the data, and then taking it to the next level from an automation perspective. Smart AI, it's there. We don't have to, we can build the intelligence in with what's going on in your world based on your data, and the possibilities are endless.
Absolutely. And David, I love what you alluded to there. It's something that we're seeing with organizations more and more, is the need to leverage platforms where you can have a singular system of operations, or a backbone for operations, and ServiceNow being one of the best in the market for that, that can then be brought across the enterprise. And we're now not looking at just IT service management, we're looking at enterprise service management. And teams like yours, Lori, and teams like yours, David, have done such a great job of taking the expertise that IT leaders have put in place over decades of using systems like ITIL and DevOps to have defined process, and then replicating that for the other organizations with the business where they've never been in a format where it's kind of required that level of process rigor. And if you take what IT's done incredibly well, and you use a singular system or a singular platform with a singular data model, it's just rinse and repeat at that point, right? It becomes something that's just really easy to replicate. Any thoughts on that, Lori and David? And I really want to get that enterprise service management mentality and kind of hear your perspective there. I'll let either of you jump in on that one.
David, I'll jump in really quick.
Okay.
So Mike, I do think that what you were talking about relative to the rinse and repeat, leveraging some of the same types of processes that we're using on the IT side are pretty easily adaptable. I know that sometimes other departments will come to the IT leaders and they will say, well, we're unique and we're very special. But I do think that for the most part, let's maybe use the 80-20 rule. A lot of the processes and the workflow automation that we are already utilizing on the IT side can be adapted elsewhere in the enterprise. Again, the platform itself is pretty easy to just pivot a little bit. We can do some unique configurations where necessary. But for the most part, those business units are also able to leverage the processes that we're using. And that is based on ITIL. So again, this is something used globally. There's standard workflows for things to do. And we're asked all the time about best practice. I want to use what's out of the box. Well, excuse me, at the end of the day, the tool is configured to support your business, but we do start with that baseline and kind of standards for incident change, problem management, and those seem to work really well. And the nice thing about having that single portal, that single point of entry for your user community, is that the experience is the same. They're not having to learn over and over again, yet they can communicate with the finance team, they can communicate with IT, they can communicate with their people team. Yep. Same look and feel, same information, all centralized in one place. That's really going a long way with the user community. We just continue to see that customers are saying, yes, I want more of that. And what else can you put into the tool for us?
Yep, absolutely. And David, you had sent me a piece of collateral that I think really resonates with what Lori was just kind of digging through there, that layer deeper of the foundation, the experience, and the automation that it's all the same tools, right? It's all the
Mhm.
same components, and you're just sort of composing it into a system that works for more enterprise service management, and you follow the same format, the same process every single time you go about releasing a new technology. But how have you worked with organizations, David, to adopt more of that enterprise strategy versus us just viewing service management as something that lives and dies within the IT org?
A key thing, and you can see it's called out here, is from the business outcomes perspective. So this is where it's IT. IT's listening to the business. IT is partnered with the business. The business is partnered with IT and helping driving and defining the strategy of technology. That is when you start making some serious headway here, really about transformation. And one key thing we've focused on here is around the business outcomes. And you can see we've got examples, business outcomes here. This is things to think about, from governance and intake and single sources of truth. What we're trying to decrease something, we're trying to increase something. And you can see, again, here's a nice example here, give you an idea from here's a journey perspective, what's foundational, what's focused on outcomes, experience level outcomes, and then from an automation perspective for the outcomes.
And David, I think that's a key point. When you look at outcome, too many of us in the technology world get focused on capabilities. If I deliver this capability, that constitutes a business outcome. And that's not true anymore, especially when we're looking at the economic landscape that we're dealing with in today's day and age. It really needs to be driven around this capability enables the business to execute in this way. We need every new investment requires such a higher level of scrutiny on what that ROI looks like. And can we prove it out? And can the ROI be something that we believe? And it's not just sort of generic, ubiquitous data for every organization. Is it something that matters to us? And as we see labor constraints, it's how do I do more with the same? How do I enable these users to deliver more value to the business, a higher level of value to the business? And that's coming down to making their experience better and their ability to automate much more efficient, and our ability to deliver on automation really tight. And I think that it really aligns well with that. ServiceNow had kind of coined the term, that global solutions framework. David, can you give me some perspective on what it takes to adopt more of this GSF type approach versus the sort of traditional each business unit acts in a silo type approach?
Yeah. And great intro here, the global solutions framework. Again, we created this for our company, for also our partners, and for our customers. This is how we organize our thinking. This is how we organize our design, our engineering. This is how we organize our go-to-market. This is how we organize our conversations with our partners. This framework, this is our blueprint. And we've got our mission here. The world works with ServiceNow. You know, we showcase digital transformation through personas, et cetera. You can see how this is broken out into customer experiences, technology excellence. This is typical what we think of the IT world, automate and optimize, but it's so much more. There's employee experiences, there's operating excellence, there's build, and there's automate. And what you'll find in here, if you guys haven't looked at this, go look at it, go check it out, because there's personas in here, there's business outcomes in here, there are a ton of artifacts from even like solution architecture. There's business cases, there's solution examples here. There's okay, from the platform, what components of the platform align here? And then 2 business outcomes, 2 metrics, 2 use cases, a ton of rich information here, really showcasing how we organize, how we think together, how we think with our partners, and what we're trying to deliver for you all.
Absolutely. And David, thanks for kind of laying that out, and the ServiceNow focusing on experience. So I know we've gone through many iterations for us ServiceNow users out there where we looked at workflows, and we've looked at the technologies and the different applications that ServiceNow has released over the years. But I think the tie into experience and excellence are probably the two things that resonate the most with me as a ServiceNow user and as somebody who works within the ServiceNow market. And Lori, I'd love to know on a day-to-day basis when you're working with customers, how you've leveraged experience in the context of this sort of broader framework to be something that helped drive adoption and expansion with your users and your customers.
Yeah, that's a very big question, but it really is having us shift from just looking at a technology perspective to what that user experience is, and more so what the business outcome is. The nice thing is we've certainly adapted to a much more agile approach in working with the customers, so that we don't have to have this long plan that we think and talk about for 3 or 4 months, but really work to chunk it down, understand what it is that we're looking to do. And there's all types of ways that we can work with the customer to achieve the specific use cases they have, and the business outcomes. And we don't have to do it all at once. So I think that's really probably the biggest thing that we do in our practice, is making sure that we're as crisp and clear as we can be. And sometimes customers will come to us and just say, first things first, I got to get off of spreadsheets because that's where I'm at. So we'll meet you where we're at. But we do work to try and have a little bit of a roadmap to talk about how we're going to get there, and maybe put it into a phased approach. So we used to really talk about crawl, walk, run, fly. But at the same time, we're trying to look at it not just from the IT perspective, but making sure that we're engaging stakeholders across the business. Because I think we continue to see that customers are not operating in silos. That's their piece of it. But let's look at what are the inputs and what are the outputs. And I think that's where customers are really seeing the value, is that the teams with the input, the team with the outputs, whether it's the audit team, the finance team, we now have reports, visibility. I'm a big fan of taking just basic SLA information that doesn't have to be visible to the end user, but now the different departments have information to make better business decisions, where they should focus. Maybe it's just a training issue. So for me, that's where I think we're seeing kind of that day-to-day implementation. Sometimes it's really that simple, and other times with large enterprise who maybe have been on the platform for a while, we're doing far more integrations and more detailed automations, and bringing in that machine learning and AI to really improve the experience and help them scale. That's the other thing that I see with customers who've been on the platform for a while, is now their use cases are really around, how do I scale and get even more out of this?
Yeah, absolutely. And the piece in that answer that I really latched onto was agile. Agile is a term that we as technologists understand intimately. We know what it means to deliver in an agile fashion. But when you start working outside of the technology org, it's big bang project. I need to go live with everything all at once. And organizations need to know, and this is a great opportunity for technology leaders to show that agile delivery gets them to results faster, to showing that their investment is proving out some kind of economic impact in a narrower time frame, while giving you the opportunity to iterate and innovate as you go. So we've touched on a majority of the things that I wanted to make sure that we were able to get as part of the broader conversation. But there's a piece that I think is missing here, and it's how do organizations look at and evaluate the consultative expertise that they want to see from partners and from technologists? Because I think it's really important that your software vendor, whether it be ServiceNow, or a different system for your ERP, that they act as a technology partner and as a consultative partner with you, the same way that your consulting partners do. So, David, when you're looking at consultative orgs, what are you kind of evaluating? What's important to you, and what should our audience be evaluating when they meet with a technology vendor or a consulting vendor?
One of the most important variables, and there are many, but one of the most important is how well do they align with the business outcomes. We can use this global solution framework as like, here's outcomes, here's what we're trying to do. How well are they focused on those business outcomes? Is this an implementation, or is this a transformation for that organization, for that customer, on trying to achieve, trying to automate, trying to optimize, trying to increase, trying to decrease something, right? Whether it's risk, whether it's cost, that is one of the key variables I look at when working with my wonderful partners out there in the ecosystem. And I also look at, from an experience perspective, have the folks, have they been in your shoes too? Have they lived it? Have they breathed it? Have they had the sleepless nights and the challenges? And it doesn't mean we have all the answers. I already know that, but have they lived it and proven, that they've been through it and that they can help you. So those are key things I really look at.
Absolutely. And, misery loves company. If you're working with an organization, you want to know that they've fought the same fights that you've fought along the way. Lori, any comments, when you're working with an organization, what they should make sure they're asking or looking for from a consulting partner?
I do think that it's important that you see your requirements in your statement of work back. So often there are partners who they make it seem like it's really quick and easy. You got the easy button. We're going to get through this in just 6 weeks. It's really quick. But does it align with your business process? Do you have the right ownership in place? Is there some stakeholder management activity? Do you have the right level of training in there? The business partner can only meet you, so far. They have to have the capacity. They have to have the availability. So in working with your partner, make sure that they're talking about those types of things. In addition to seeing your work in the statement of work, if you're seeing something that's generic and cookie cutter, I would say ask more and make sure that your outcomes are clearly identified in there, and that there's measures that you collectively have decided you can work with your partner on, and that you're going to be held accountable to.
That ties perfectly into David's comment about, is it an implementation or is it a transformation? And we're seeing more and more of our customers, as they start evaluating their projects and their roadmap, that any activity they have is an opportunity for process revitalization, transformation, improvement. And if you're just implementing technology for the sake of implementing technology, capabilities don't equal business outcomes. Right. We need to transform. We need to drive towards something larger.
And there are times I see it, Mike. We do have customers who say, it hurts. We're on spreadsheets. First things first. This is what we have to do. And in that case, in our practice, we would take it a step further and say, let us also do some process work with you. We'll be compliant from day one, but now we have everybody actually working and agreeing to the same process, the tools configured for that. We've got many, many years of experience behind us, so we're not going to take you down a path where you won't be successful. But at the same time, we would want to make sure that you've got a pretty immediate follow-on phase 2, where we're getting more feedback from the users as they move away from something as simple as email. So again, make sure that you're seeing yourself and that the partner can meet you where you are.
Absolutely. So that covered most of the prepared content we wanted to dig into today, and I want to move into Q&A. So feel free to post questions in the question and answer section, and we'll dig into those. Before, and as you guys start to load those up, David and Lori, what I always like to ask of the people in our webinars is, when we wrap this, from both of you, I want 3 key takeaways that our audience can put into practice today. So keep it simple, keep it straightforward. But after we dig into some of these questions, I want to know those 3 key takeaways that they can put into practice. And it looks like the first one, and I'll direct this to you, David, is, how is ServiceNow addressing the concept of enterprise service management?
The enterprise service management, you can see it directly addressed with that global solutions framework. It's a platform, and we're beyond the point solutions out there. It's you can't manage hundreds and thousands of applications in your portfolio and expect to be nimble, to be fast, and to make sure you're ensuring that you're achieving the business outcomes you need to do. And it's more than IT. There's the customer experiences. Meet the customer where they are at. Cases, they need to open a case, right? Something they need help. You can have actual agents, and you can have virtual agents to help. And the system only going to get smarter and smarter over time and more data. The employee experiences, how do you consolidate employees? How do you get HRs there? Why can't they have a catalog too? They should. What about facilities? What about legal? And the list goes on. And so again, we're hyper focused on that from an enterprise services perspective. That's why we have our platform and continue to build and enhance it.
Absolutely. And ServiceNow has done such a great job documenting out this is how the architecture works within the tool and how the common service data model helps you expand across. And David, your comments tie perfectly into that next question that we have, which is, Lori, I'll throw this one to you. How do you convince, and I'm going to put emphasis on convince, other departments to work with IT instead of doing this their own way? It seems like somebody in our audience has had some shadow IT issues.
Yeah, and this is going to maybe even tie in a little bit to what I would say are kind of my 3 takeaways. The shadow IT and having other departments go off and kind of do their own thing is sometimes in part because maybe you're repairing and building IT hasn't been as trusted. But there's a couple of things that I recommend the IT team, the platform team do to start building that relationship to become a trusted partner. And one is to define a simple offering, something that's kind of out of the box. How can this other department leverage your incident or primarily even your request management, right? How can we build them a service catalog item and something that you can demo in less than 5 minutes? Something really simple, really easy, but again, takes them maybe even just out of email or spreadsheets. Then set up the meeting and talk to them and really listen, understanding what they're trying to accomplish, what's maybe in their budget. There's probably something, pretty close that we can take a look at in the platform, but also know on your team and be prepared who can talk to it. It might not be your admin. It might have to be the product owner, right? Make sure that you have a plan of how you're going to communicate with the business. So who on your team is going to own it, and know that when someone gives you their time, and a little bit like the elevator pitch, you're not going to have a lot of time, so keep it under 10 minutes is my recommendation. And then third, understand the capacity of your team. What could you take on? You may not be in a position to take on something that's maybe more than 15 hours. You may not have a business analyst who can meet with them and gather requirements. So know what you can take on that's really minor. Yes, you could create a generic service catalog item and get things out of email, but if it goes a little bit beyond that, you may need to work with your partner and bring your partner in to have those conversations as well. So, but know what that is and your capabilities before you start having the conversation.
Absolutely. And I think demand management is something that we could all do better across the board. How do we evaluate, as those demands come in, do you have the capacity to really execute against it? And it's something that there's great tooling out there that helps support it. But if you can work with those business partners to break that demand down into consumable chunks, then it's something that those groups will engage with you more on, and they'll be willing to trust you and view you as that partner to help deliver it. But if they come to you and it's just the big bang component, and they need this whole project delivered all at once, and they view IT as an impediment to help get it where it needs to be, they're going to go off and try and do it on their own, and they're not going to look at, how do I support this? How does IT help drive it? And where do we go from there?
And that picture, right, the demonstration piece really helps to get over the hurdle of the technology conversation that sometimes IT can get stuck in. So I do find that being able to demo it and having a demonstration of something where the use case is not IT, then the person is in a position to say, tell me more, right?
Yep.
And now they're listening. And that's just the very first step in that process of becoming a trusted advisor to the organization.
Absolutely. And the next question that we have, I think this is just a great piggyback to how do we get people to trust us and work with IT? It's how the comment is, my company views IT as a cost center, and how can we change that image? How do we change the perspective that IT is a cost center or a drain on the business and shift it towards something else? Anybody want to take that one first?
I'll hit it. This is all about data and transparency. When you're on a consolidated platform, you have the data and you can provide the transparency. IT is a cost center. Okay, you know what, business partner? This is what we do daily. This is what we do monthly. Here's how many tickets we have. Here's how many incidents we have. Here's our portfolio. By the way, your business has 50 applications or 120 applications. They have 2 of them are the most chatty, what we'd say chatty apps in the entire portfolio. It takes a lot. Let's have a different conversation here on what we can do about improving this and changing this. IT is not just a cost center. It's more, there's a lot going on. We're doing everything we can to enable your business. You can also focus on, who do you have in the organization also that owns, say, the platforms and business analysts, and what type of conversations also are they having? Is your business not being heard? Do they feel like they're not being heard? Okay, how do you address that? Again, talked a little bit about getting the senior leadership together, getting those partnerships established, having communications, building roadmaps together. Imagine that. It's business technology roadmaps together and prioritize. There's even more, but those really do help address, is IT a cost center?
Absolutely.
And with the visibility, sorry, we can also
dig in.
We can also build the business cases too, right? That's something that really haven't talked about, and we can a little bit more about, building a business case together for some of that change and some of that transformation. And what I've seen in the past too, some of those senior leaders in the business, their eyes do open. They're like, wow, I didn't know it takes this much. And this is good to know. They really appreciate it.
Absolutely. And there's really no department in the business that's got the best position to be data driven and to provide data the way that the technology groups do.
Mike, I would just add that in this last year, I had customers continually asking, how can we give time back to our employees? Most of that kind of came from the kind of fulfiller side, right? Of making sure that how long does it take to do the work? Taking that and coming up with a really simple multiplier without getting into heavy return on investment types of things. If you can return an hour a month, an hour a week, times thousands of employees, that number starts to add up. So that's where I think people can have that aha moment of how IT isn't just a cost center, but now how you are bringing savings and productivity to the business. And that's a metric that seems to be something we can pretty easily arrive on as a group to be able to message back to the organization. And that's a really big one, right? Because now it's not about the spend for licenses or something else. It's about, oh my goodness, you hit the nail on the head there, I think, a little bit earlier. How can I do more with the same? And how can we make the experience of working here and get the automation of things that I shouldn't have to touch multiple times? We're seeing a lot of value being driven there, and that's something that businesses is easily able to see and say, let's do more of this.
Absolutely. And there's no platform like ServiceNow to enable an organization to configure one catalog item that can have the impact of 1 hour's worth of improvement per employee per week. And where does that start cascading? When you factor that out, that's the kind of back of the napkin math that is really believable when you're going to prove ROI to the organization. And so I know we're kind of right at time, so I want to wrap up with the 3 key takeaways. Lori, we got yours a little bit earlier, but David, hit me with the 3 things that you'd want to see the audience put into practice as soon as they leave the webinar today.
One thing, just know it is a journey and you're not alone. And journeys do imply it takes a long time. Look at it differently though. Platforms accelerate journeys. And continue to do some research, dig in, look at our global solutions framework, look at those use cases and the personas, and look at the opportunities and for your organization. 2, partners. Don't do it alone. I've tried. Don't do it alone. Find those partners. There are very good partners out there with the experience, and they can help you. They can help you with so many things. Seat at the table, business case analysis. We can help you with business case analysis too. Get a partner. Don't do it alone. And the other is, what are those business outcomes you're trying to achieve? Don't just think IT outcomes. Think business outcomes. Think value streams. That stream of value, where is it going? It's ultimately, we as an organization, our company, we have customers, we've got to address them and do traceability through.
Absolutely. And thanks for those. And so as we kind of wrap up, Lori, I know your key takeaways were start small, demonstrate technology to the business, and then set them up to scale. Was there anything else you wanted to touch on then? Otherwise, I'll kind of wrap it up.
Just to reiterate what David said, which is really common for us as a partner, understand what capabilities your team has in-house and how much time they have. Because if it's months and months because they don't have bandwidth, that's not going to help you build those relationships with the enterprise. So identify early what needs to happen with a partner, have the initial conversation, let them know you have a plan, you have a partner on board with you. And I think that will definitely help you scale and understand what you can deliver and when to your internal customers.
Absolutely. And so as we kind of wrap this up, the key thing, Lori, that I kind of took away from this conversation is, as you're working through your journey and as you're dealing with different business partners, whether it be HR, marketing, finance, legal, et cetera, understand their business need, drive towards the outcome. And then for any organization that's joined us for the webinar today, feel free to reach out to Synoptek or your ServiceNow partner. We're happy to dig in, look at that roadmap, look at those demands, and help you identify which ones are opportunities that you should go after, that you've got the capacity to deliver on. Or if you don't, where we'd be able to help support you more broadly. So leverage us. We're here to be a partner. We're here to be a friend. Leverage ServiceNow, and you've got great organizations that are here to really drive your successes. So thank you for the time today, and we'll hopefully be in touch soon.
Thank you, everybody.